Welcome to LIVEDAF, your online Daf Yomi Shiur.
Shalom and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Brachos Daf Nun. Memtes Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom, says the Gemara. Omar Shmuel, La'olam al yotzi adam es atzmoi min haklal. One should see not to exclude himself from the rest of the group when they make a bracha to Hashem. So he's referring to the halacha mentioned in the Mishnah that when we have 4 people by a zimun, then the leader, the mezamer, is meant to turn to them and say, Baruch Hu shechal shloi, make a bracha to the one whose food we ate. Says Shmuel, although the Mishnah says that that's acceptable, but actually, better than that is to say nevarech. Come, let's together make a bracha to Hashem. In that manner, he is including himself together in the bracha with a group. Says the Gemara, is that so? Tanan, haven't we learned? B'shloisha b'hu aymer Baruch Hu. We have 3 in addition to him. He's meant to turn to them and say Baruch Hu. Apparently Baruch Hu is better than the Varech. Explains Tosfos. Because at this point in the Gemara held that Baruch Hu has an advantage because it has an authoritative ring to it. Baruch Hu shechal shloi. It's a tzivah, it's a commandment, rather than merely nevarech, which sounds like perhaps only a suggestion. Let's make a bracha to Hashem. So ask the Gemara, how could Shmuel say that nevarech is preferred if the Mishnah clearly says that Baruch Hu is what is meant to be said? Says the Gemara, Ema, let's say af Baruch Hu. The Mishnah merely says that Baruch Hu is also acceptable. But certainly nevarech, where he includes himself with the group, that is preferred. The Omar of Ada Bar Ava, Amar Bei Rav, Tanina, as we learned in the Mishnah, Vav Nechlok. We have 6 people eating together. They may split into 2 subgroups and make 2 zimuns. Adyut, this halacha applies for 6, 7, 8, 9 people eating together up until 10. Once they get to 10, that's the threshold which requires zimun with Hashem's name. At that point, they're obligated to be mezamin together. They can't split up. But from 6 up until 9, they can split into 2 subgroups. Says, well, let's analyze this Mishnah. If you maintain that the version of nevarech is preferred, now we understand why 6 people can split into 2 groups of 3, where each group will merely say nevarech. Eli amars baruch hu adif. If baruch hu is preferred, how do you allow 6 people to split into 2? When they were 6, they were able to say baruch hu because they have more than 3. Now that you allow them to split into 2, now they're stuck with nevarech, which is less preferred. So how are they allowed to do that? Apparently, nevarech adif. Apparently, the Mishnah teaches us that baruch hu is not better than nevarech, and if so, one certainly should prefer nevarech, where he includes himself together with the rest of the group. Shma mina. Tana Namiyach, we have a brayso in support of this as well. The brayso says, "Bein shama baruch hu, bein shama nevarech." Whether he says baruch hu or nevarech, ain't toifs nicer. We don't seize him, we don't harass him. We let him proceed. Ain't toifs nicer al kach. But those perfectionists, toifs nicer al kach, they indeed seize him, they harass him. So the brayso clearly tells us that al pidin, baruch hu and nevarech are both acceptable. Baruch hu is not considered to be better than nevarech, and therefore certainly one is meant to prefer nevarech, where he includes himself together with the klal, with the rest of the group, in the bracha to Hashem. And this concurs with the shita of Shmuel. Continues the Gemara with a Tosefta. Tosefta says, from the way that a person formulates his brachos, from the manner which he composes his brachos, nikar, it's indicative. We can discern im talmid chacham hu im lav, if he indeed is or not a Torah scholar. Keitzad, Rabbi explains with regard to brachos hazimun. If one says ubetuvay chayinu, hariz talmid chacham, apparently he's a talmid chacham. He understands the proper way to address Hashem. Umituvay, if he says mituvay, from some of Hashem's goodness we live, hariz a bor, he's ignoramus, because he indicates that Hashem is merely providing a little bit goodness, just enough to give us life, to sustain us. Bituvay is a more greater, broader term. With His goodness, through His goodness, we live. That is the preferred formulation of Brachos HaZimun, rather than mituvay, which indicates just a small amount of His goodness that He endows us with. We see the term umi birchasecha from your brachos. Apparently, even you can use the mem. Even a small amount of your brachos from your brachos, the home of your servant will be blessed forever. So you see that's acceptable. So why here do you frown upon the person that says umituvai from your goodness? Says the Gemara, there is different. V'she'elo shiny. It's different over there that he's asking, he's requesting. When a person asks for a favor, you don't ask for a large favor. You ask for a small favor. And therefore, it is proper to say, umi birchascha from your brachas, from your bracha. As opposed to here, where he is expressing his gratitude, his thanks to Hashem, he's meant to do it in the most grandest fashion. Say, ubituvai, with your goodness, with your whole goodness, through your goodness, rather than merely saying, umituvai, for a little bit of his goodness. It says, regarding your request, we also find that one can ask even a great bounty, a great amount. Hashem says, broaden your mouth, ask your complete heart's desire, and I will fill up the mouth. So we see here that even regarding a request, it is proper to ask in a grand manner for the full bounty of Hashem, says the Gemara. There's a difference. With regard, over here we're speaking about Divrei Torah, when a person requests Hashem to comprehend Hashem's Torah. There, Torah is limitless, it's boundless, it's infinite. There indeed it is appropriate to ask Hashem in an unlimited fashion. However, regarding Birchas Hazimun, which refers to material needs, the proper way is to say, Ubitu v'chayinu, with regard to an expression of thanks and gratitude. Through His goodness, with His goodness we live. However, with regard to a request, certainly a person should ask on a lower scale, Umi birchascha, from your bracha, a little bit. A person is not meant to go ahead and ask a big favor. Regarding Divrei Torah, a person is meant to go all out, ask to the full heart's content. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein used to say that there's a difference between all other matters of spirituality where we insist that a person goes mimadrega l'madrega, from level to level, proceed slowly, gradually. Don't jump, don't go too fast. Since there's a concern that if one jumps too high in levels of avodas Hashem, of spirituality, perhaps he might lose his footing and slip and regress. A person is meant to conquer, to accomplish one stage at a time and proceed afterwards to the next level. However, regarding Divrei Torah, says Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, that's different. Torah, by definition, is beyond. It's a higher realm. It's sublime. It's surreal. Therefore, regarding Divrei Torah, a person is meant to ask Hashem for the grandest of levels, for the greatest heights. Hashem shall endow him in the deepest comprehension, the most broadest understanding of Torah. Because Torah, by definition, is higher than us, and Hashem could take the Torah, which is in its very essence, beyond our reach, and very much place it within our grasp. Harchav picha, Hashem says, ask me for anything, v'amaleu, and I will fill it up. I will fill up your mouth. I will fill you up with the Torah. Just ask. Ask for the greatest, for the broadest, for the deepest levels of Torah, and I will grant it to you. Continues the Gemara. Okay, so we learned two halachas regarding the proper formulation of Birchas Hazimun. One is nevarich, include yourself with everybody else, and number two, ubituvai chayinu. Continues the Gemara with another few examples. Tanya Rabbi Omer bituvai chayinu. Through his goodness we live. Harei Talmud Chacham, because he's including himself. We live. Chayim, but if he says bituvai chayim, there is life. Harei is bur. Why? Because he's excluding himself from the description of his Birchas Hazimun. Nabreloi masni ifcha. The Nabreloi, they formulated just the opposite. They held that saying bituvai chayim, that encompasses much more, includes the life of the entire world. And that is preferred over merely saying Tvei Chayini, our life. Concludes the Gemara, the final ruling, we don't conclude like them. Rather, a person is meant to say Tvei Chayinu, to include himself in the bracha. Rabbi Yochanan, nevarech she'achalnu mishaloi, one who says we will make a bracha. Nevarech, let's make a bracha. She'achalnu mishaloi, the one whose we have eaten from, hariz talmid chacham. That is the proper way. Lemi she'achalnu mishaloi, to whom we have eaten from his hariz a bur. Why? Because lemi she'achalnu mishaloi indicates that there are many providers. We have to choose which one. And this seems to indicate that he's thanking his host who served him the meal. Rather, one is meant to say, Nevarech she'achalnu mishaloi, the one and only provider Hashem. Don't we say, Lemi she'asalav v'seinu v'lanu, es kol hanisim ha'elu. We praise Hashem, we thank Hashem. Lemi, to the one that did for our parents and us all these miracles, and took us out of Mitzrayim. So you see that this term, Lemi, is appropriate. Over there it's obvious that's referring to Hashem, even though he's using the term Lemi she'asa. Why? Who makes miracles? Only Hashem makes miracles. Therefore it's obvious that's referring to Hashem, even though he's using the word Lemi. Another example of properly formulating Brachos Hazimun. If one says Baruch Shachal Lemi Shaloi, from his Hariz Talmid Chacham, Allah Mazon Shachalnu, Hariz Bur. It sounds like he's thanking the food itself. So one is meant to say Shaloi Mishaloi from his to refer to Hashem. Amar of Hunabi Shaloi Amar. This is only a concern Ela Begimel regarding a zimun which involves three people. They're like Hashem Shemayim, since there's no reference to Hashem's name in the Brachos Hazimun. So there's room for a mistake, and perhaps it can be referred to the food rather than Hashem. Aval Ba'asara, but regarding the zimun which includes 10 people, in that case, Ika Shem Shemayim, since they make reference to Hashem, Mucha certainly it is obvious and evident that they are thanking Hashem. And it's not a concern, even if they don't say the word Mishaloi. Because it's not as we have seen now in Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Ki inyan shehu mevarech. Just as the leader, the Mezamen, calls out to them and makes the bracha when we have 10, Kach, in the same manner, they respond. Baruch Hashem, Elokei Yisrael, Elokei Tzvokos, Yesha Kruvim. Rather, it's the Mishnah speaking about Beribu, 10,000. So the same way he calls out to them, they respond to him, and they say the same formula, and they conclude with Ala Mazon Shochalnu, on the food that we ate, and they don't say Mishaloi. So apparently, since they are making reference to Hashem, even without saying the word Mishaloi, it is pretty obvious that they are thanking, they are praising, they are blessing Hashem. And the word Mishaloi is not critical. Continues the Gemara. Let's just make a quick summary of the proper formulation of Brachos Hazimun. We had a list of 5 items. Number 1, Nevarech, that puts the person b'tzreich haklal, includes him together with the rest of the group. One is meant to say b'tuvoi, since that is a broader description, Hashem's goodness, not merely mituvoi, from His goodness, a little bit of His goodness. One is meant to say b'tuvoi chayinu, all of us live. He's meant to include himself in the klal. One is meant to say she'achalnu mishaloi, the one whose we've eaten from. And finally, one's meant to say mishaloi, from his, in reference to Hashem. He's meant to say Baruch Shachalnu mishaloi. The Gemara concludes that regarding a Birchas Asara, which has reference to Hashem's name, that is not a concern. Continues the Gemara, Echad Asara, Echad Asara Riboy. Mishnah says that the same version, the same text of Brachos Hazimun, which includes Hashem's name, that is applied regardless of whether we're speaking about 10 people or 10 riboy, 10 times 10,000 people. The nusach stays the same. And then the Mishnah continues and says, well, there's a difference. By 10 we say one thing, by 100 we pick it up a notch, by 1,000 we go even higher. This is an inherent contradiction. Hoguf akashya. Amr's first you say Echad Asara riboy. Alma apparently Kiadadininu. They both have the same formula, whether it's 10 or whether it's 10 riboy. Then immediately you go and describe and you say B'meya Omer. With 100 we say one thing. Be'elef Omer, by 1,000 we say something else. Riboy, by 10,000 we say a different version. So apparently it's a contradiction. Amar Yosef Lo Kashi, it's not difficult. They reflect 2 different opinions. Rabbi Yehuda, the second part of the Mishnah, which differentiates between the various thresholds, the greater the crowd, the greater the bracha. This is the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda. But the first part, which maintains the same text throughout Hara Akiva, this is the Shita of Rabbi Akiva. This not, as the Mishnah indeed continues and says, according to the size of the crowd, that's how they compose the bracha. With assemblages, with groupings, gatherings, various types of gatherings, various sizes. Baruch Elokim, bless Hashem. Apparently the bracha is meant to reflect the size of the crowd. However, Rabbi Kiva says, just as we find in Shul, that we say Baruch Hashem regardless of whether it's 10 or 1,000. Similarly, regarding Zimun, we don't change the text, the nusach of Zimun, based on the size of the group. Says Rabbi Kiva, what does Rabbi Kiva do with the pasuk of a Makhilas Baruch Elokim that Rabbi Yossi uses to support his shita? What does Rabbi Kiva do with this pasuk? He needs it to teach us the following medrash. Look at the Sanya. Rabbi Kiva Imer. Minayin. How do we know? Shafilu ubrin shebmeimun. Even fetuses in their mother's womb. Amru shir alayam. They expressed song to Hashem by Yamsuf. Shenamar b'makhilas Baruch Elokim. Hashem mimikar Yisrael, from the source. This includes the fetus in the source in the womb of his mother. The Idach, Rabbi Saglida, will learn this concept from the latter part of the pasuk. Mimkar nafka. He learns it from the word mimkar, from the source, which is a reference to this ubar me'imoy. But from the first part of the pasuk, makhelis baruch lakim, he learns that it depends on the types of gatherings. The bracha reflects the various sizes of makhelis. He learns both things from the same bracha. Amar Rabbi Kiva, halacha Rabbi Kiva. Amar Rav halacha Rabbi Kiva. The halacha follows Rabbi Kiva that during Birchas HaMazon, Birchas HaZimun, we don't differentiate between the sizes. Once we get to the point of 10 and we insert Hashem's name, we maintain that nusach, that formula, that version all throughout, regardless of the size. Continues the Gemara, Ravina, Rav Chama bar Buzi, Ikul Beish Galusa, they came and they had a meal by the Beish Galusa. Kam Rav Chama v'kamahad Rabbi Meya. So Rav Chama went around and he looked to gather together the 100 for the Zimun, to make the greater bracha, the higher level of Birchas HaZimun, which applies to 100, and not merely the lower version, which applies to 10. It's not necessary. You don't need to do that. The halacha follows Rabbi Kiva, and therefore, whether it's a 10 or 100, it's the same bracha. Another story. We would have our meals by the Beish Galusa, who had a large crowd, and they would make the Zimun all together. However, says Rava, we would do something else. We would split into groups of 3 and make our own Zimun. When we completed our meal, we wouldn't wait until the Beish Galusa finally finishes his meal. He would prolong his meal. We wouldn't wait that long. We would make our own small Zimuns of 3. And the Gemara soon will explain why. Says the Gemara, 1 second. If they were sitting with a larger group, then they're obligated to make a Zimun of 10. Let them make a bracha rather than 3, they should make a bracha of 10. Shama Beish Galusa be'ikpid. If they will make a Zimun with 10, and the Mazam, the leader, will call out to all 10, he would have to do it loudly, and the Beish Galusa will hear and will take offense. Therefore, they prefer doing a small scale Zimun of merely 3 people together quietly, so that nobody, the Beish Galusa, will not hear and take offense, be makpid. So, 1 second. Why did they go ahead and do this? Why did they simply wait for the conclusion of the meal? V'nifku v'bracha Beish Galusa. Why weren't they yotzei? Why didn't they include themselves in the Birchas HaZimun of the Beish Galusa with the entire crowd? Says the Gemara, Aidu da avshikul alma, because of the excessive noise, the noise that everybody made. Shami, they couldn't hear. They wouldn't be able to hear and be yotzei with the Birchas HaZimun, which will take place at the end of the meal. Therefore, they were compelled to conclude their meal, to make their Zimun earlier, quietly, with groups of 3. Now, I once saw that Rav Moshe Feinstein says a novel chiddush. He says that one attends a large gathering, for instance, a wedding, and he knows he's going to leave early, he may do so since he had initially intended on doing so. He didn't have a mind to establish himself completely with a group of 10 or 100. Since his machshava was to leave early, he can do so. And although he won't be taking part in the Zimun of the entire assemblage. So apparently this Gemara is a proof to that chiddush, because here too we say that Rava and the others would make their own Zimun of 3, although they took part in a much greater meal, which had at least 10. So why weren't they obligated to wait for 10? Evidently, since they intended originally, their initial machshava was to separate themselves, not to fully establish themselves with the rest of the group. Therefore, they were certainly allowed to conclude early and not take part in zimun of asar. This is a right to Ramesh's Chiddush. Amar Rava Teisva. The following halacha: Hani gimel de karchi rifte badadadi. 3 people ate their meal together. V'kom chad benayu u'barach ledaite. One got up and made Brachos Hamazon on his own without zimun. Inun nafkin bezimun today. Even though he finished his Brachos Hamazon, nevertheless the rest, the other 2, can go ahead now and make zimun and include him in their zimun. He can complete their quorum of 3. He can't do it anymore. Why? Since he already benched, there's no zimun retroactively. Since he already said Brachos Hamazon, he cannot anymore fulfill the brach of zimun. He already lost his opportunity. But they, since they're still in the middle of their meal, they can bring him in and include him, and he can complete their zimun, so they fulfill their obligation of Brichas Hazimun. Continues the Gemara of Shmuel Eimer that regarding Baruchu, one is meant to say Baruch Hashem HaMavorach, and not merely Baruch Hashem. Rav Papa Rabbi Giver. Rav Papa came to the shul of Rabbi Giver. He got up and read from the scroll. Va'amar Baruch Hashem. So when he got Aliyah to the Torah, he said Baruch Hashem. V'yishtik, and he stopped right there. V'lo Yom HaMavorach. He didn't continue Baruch Hashem HaMavorach. Af shekuli alma. So everybody noisily responded, protested, and said Baruch Hashem HaMavorach. You meant to say Baruch Hashem HaMavorach. Amar Rava. So Rava turned to Rav and he said, Pasi Uchma. Pasi means a vessel of clay. Uchma, a black vessel of clay. Versions say that the sometimes Talmid Chacham will refer to each other with this term to indicate their intense involvement, immersion in Torah, which sometimes would preclude their washing of their clothing. They would neglect to wash their clothing. So you're a darkened vessel. It was a complimentary term. Bahadi plukta lamach. Why are you getting involved in the machlekes? Why are you saying Baruch Hashem and not Baruch Hashem HaMavorach? Now we know that even Rabbi Akiva, who says in the Mishnah that one can say Baruch Hashem, but he agrees certainly one can say Baruch Hashem HaMavorach. He says one can also say Baruch Hashem, but Baruch Hashem HaMavorach is also good. And therefore, even Rabbi Akiva agrees that it's better. You should have gone that route. Why did you pick Baruch Hashem HaMavorach? The common practice, the prevailing custom, is to follow Shmuel's version, which is Baruch Hashem HaMavorach. So you should have said Baruch Hashem HaMavorach, not merely Baruch Hashem. Continues the Mishnah. They may not separate, since they're obligated to make Brichas Hazimun on account of them having a meal together. V'chein dalad, v'chein chamisha, vav, once they get to the point of 6, nechlaken, indeed they could split into 2 groups and make their own separate zimuns. Ad asara, this applies to 6, 7, 8, 9, until 10. At that point, v'asara ein nechlaken, 10 can't split up, since they're obligated to make the higher form of zimun, which includes Hashem's name. Therefore, they can't split up into smaller groups. Ad sheyu esrim, until they get to 20. Once they get to the point of 20, and certainly they can split into 2 groups of 10, because each group will have Brichas Hazimun with Hashem's name. Continues the Mishnah. Shtei chaburos shehayu oiches vayis echad, 2 groups sitting in one room. When both see each other, then they can combine into one zimun. But otherwise, if they don't see each other, they're considered to be 2 separate groups, and they don't combine with each other. Each one will make a separate zimun. Continues the Mishnah. We're not meant to make a bracha, the special unique bracha of Ber Priyagofen on wine, until one pours water into it, until one dilutes it with water. Their wines were very strong and sharp and weren't really enjoyable. When they were drunk in their pure form, they were meant to be diluted. And they were meant to be diluted 1 part wine with 3 parts water. Very diluted. So The Mishnah teaches us that although wine was granted its own unique bracha because it was changed for the better, it was changed into a more quality product, nevertheless, it's only once it's diluted properly and it can be enjoyed as a beverage. But if it's in its pure form, it's not considered to be a proper drinking of wine. It's not really enjoyable, and therefore, the bracha will not be by Priyagafan, but merely, as the Gemara says, it maintains its form of bracha, which was applied to the grapes, which is a Boyer Priyates. This is the opinion of Rabbi Lezer. Even without diluting it, one may indeed make the bracha a Boyer Priyagafan. Okay, continues the Gemara. What is the Mishnah informing us by telling us if three people ate as one, they can't split up? Tanina Chadazin, we already learned one time in the beginning of the parak that three people ate together as one, they're obligated to Brachos Hazimun. So what is the point of repeating the same halacha again? Says the Gemara, Kamash Malan, the Mishnah is teaching us an additional chiddush, an additional halacha. Ki ha de Amar ba'Abba Mashmo. Gimel shiyash v'le'echel ka'achas. If three sat down to eat together, v'adayin lo yachlu, but they haven't yet eaten a shear. They began to eat, but they haven't yet eaten a shear kazayis. Einon v'ashan necholek. They're already bound together. They're kavod together, and they cannot split up any longer. So this is an additional stringency, an additional chiddush halacha that the second Mishnah adds. If three already sat down together, they haven't really eaten a full meal together. Merely they began eating. This already obligates them in Brachos Hazimun. Rabbi Yehuda brings another pshat that even if they merely decided to eat together, they haven't yet begun their meal. Nevertheless, since they decided, they intended on having a joint meal, they're already obligated in Brachos Hazimun. Explains Rabbi Yehuda, this shita will hold that once you're a makabel, one accepts upon himself to do a mitzvah, commits himself to fulfill a mitzvah, that already obligates him, and he can't absolve himself any longer. So either way, this is the chiddush of this Mishnah. Mishnah, another version of the chiddush, Amar Baba Mashmuel Hachiktani. Gimel she'osh le'echad ka'echas, afal pi shchol echad ve'echad oichel mekikra, even though they're eating from independent loaves, einan rashal nechalek, nevertheless they can't split up. So this is an additional halacha we hear from the second Mishnah. Not only when they eat together from one kikar, even if they're separate loaves, it obligates them Brachos Hazimun. Inami, or perhaps another chiddush that the Mishnah teaches us, ki ha de Rafuna, Rafuna, gimel shabo mi gimel chaburais. If three people arrive to us from three separate groups, meaning there were three groups of three people each that had their meal, and one person departs from each group prior to being mezamen with them, and now they come and they join together and they formulate a new group of three, they are obligated Brachos Hazimun. Says Rashi, even though they never even ate together, but since they have an obligation of zimun based on their prior experience, based on the meal that they ate with their original group, therefore the chiv zimun is still here, it's still intact. And when they come together again as three, there were three people come together here as a group of shloisha, this obligates them to make Brachos Hazimun. So even though they haven't eaten together, so this is the chiddush of this Mishnah, which is above and beyond the halacha stated in the first Mishnah. From that Mishnah, I would merely learn that, I would merely know that simple halacha, that people ate together, they're obligated to bench together. But in this case, who says, on what grounds are we allowing them to make a zimun? Says the second Mishnah, yes, even in this case, when three people arrive from three separate groups, now we have a group of three and they have to make a zimun. Yes, that they originated. They came from an original group which contained three people. And this is only said, this is only applied only if their former group, their former group didn't quickly go ahead and make a zimun. If their groups, their respective groups, hasn't made a zimun with them, on account of them, back in their original place. But if the original group made a zimun on account of them, including them in their zimun, in that case, parach zimun menayu, the chiv, the obligation, the concept of zimun departs them, leaves them. It parach flies away, and they no longer have the obligation and the option. They're no longer eligible to make zimun. Explains Rashi, What does it mean that the former group was azman alai b'dichtayu? Says Rashi, for example, as we learned earlier, when we have a group of three and one of them walks out, the group can call to him and say, 1 second, listen to our zimun. Nevarach shechan sh'lein, he responds, Baruch. So that's called azman alayu. The group was mazman on those individuals b'dichtayu, back on their original place. So in that case, although, as Rabbi explains, although this individual wasn't really yaitse with the zimun, since he was outside and he didn't have kavanah to be yaitse, nevertheless, since the group, the other two, they conducted their zimun on account of him, they included him in their zimun. So therefore, the majority of the group determines the status of the zimun of the entire group. And since they included him in their zimun, they fulfilled their obligation of zimun on account of him. Therefore, even though he himself has not fulfilled his obligation of zimun, nevertheless, his zimun flies away. It departs from him. It's parach. It flies away, and he has no more concept of zimun. Even now, if he will come together with another two individuals that went through the same experience, now we have a group of three that hadn't fulfilled their b'chira obligation. Nevertheless, they have no more zimun. Their zimun is parach menayu. Their zimun has departed them on account of the fact that their groups had fulfilled their zimun on account of these individuals. So again, we have three groups of three, and an individual departs from each of those groups, and they join together as a new group, even though they haven't eaten together. They are mechuyev to make zimun. But that's only provided that their original groups hadn't included them in their zimun. Says Amar Rav, where do we find such a concept that since the original group had made zimun on their account, included them in their zimun, so now that they left those groups, even though they come together again as a new group, nevertheless they won't have chiv zimun no longer anymore. But where do we find this concept? A similar halacha, the snan as we learned. Mita, a bet, shenigna v'chetzia, that was split into two, and part was stolen. Oisha of the chetzia, one part was lost. Oisha chalko achin, two brothers divided the bed. Oishutfin, or two partners divided it. Tahira. So even though the bed was tamei, nevertheless, since now it's divided into two, it is no longer considered to be a kli, since it's not suitable to be used, and it's tar. But hechzirua, but if they come back and they get returned, they will return. Let's say the ganav, the thief returned it, or somebody finds it and returns it, etc. Mekabalas tumah mekan laba. It can receive tumah. It can contract tumah from here on in. Mekan laba in mafer loy, but not retroactively. Even though they restored the bed to its former state, nevertheless, since it was divided into in a manner that made it unfit, unsuitable to be used. Why? Since he had no intention of rebuilding this bed. It was lost, it was stolen, it was split by two partners. In that case, the tumah disappears, and even if the parts are rebuilt, they rejoin back together, the tumah doesn't return. It is considered to be a new entity. It is mektam kavatuma mekan laba, only going forward and not retroactively. Tosfos points out that even according to the sheet that holds that a bed that is split up in this manner generally doesn't lose its status of a bed, is still tamei. But here it's different, since it was split up in a manner that there was no intention, no intent, no plan of rebuilding it. It was lost, it was stolen. So everybody agrees in this case. Indeed, it loses its tumah, and even when they rejoin the parts, it is only considered to be a kli mekan laba, not retroactively. Alma, says Rav, apparently, given the palgua, once they split up the bed, it was once a bed, then it was split into just piece parts, unsuitable for use. Even though they go ahead and they refit it back together, they rebuild the bed, parach la tumah minei, the tumah disappears. Hachanami here too, given the azm alayu, since the original groups conducted a zimun on account of those individuals that departed the group, parach zimun menayu, the zimun departs them and leaves them. And even though they come here and they join together as a new group, This is a new group. They don't maintain their former status, even though each individual was initially part of a group of zimun, was obligated in zimun. Nevertheless, since there was a zimun that took place, and they departed from that group, and the zimun was already said on their behalf, they were already included into the group that said the zimun. Now that they parted from the group, even though they came back again and made a new group, there's a new group of individuals that on their account, as far as they're concerned, they didn't do any zimun, they weren't yaitzid with zimun. Nevertheless, since the original group did zimun with them, the chiv zimun, the concept of zimun, leaves them. And even if they come back together as a group, they join together, and now we have a group of 3, their chiv zimun, their klal zimun was paka, disappears, departs from them, and they can't regain that chayva zimun again, even though there's 3 standing together. This is a similar concept, loosely related to that Mishnah in Kalim, which teaches us that once we lose something, we can regain its original status. So in summary, what is the second Mishnah teaching us? The second Mishnah tells us that 3 people ate together as one. They can't split up. What is the chiddush in this Mishnah? We have a choice of 3. Number 1, it's coming to teach us, even if they adayin le'achlu, even if they haven't eaten yet together, according to Rabbi Yehuda, this means even if they merely decided to eat together, this already obligates them. According to the Rosh, it's coming to teach us, even though they only ate less than a shear, it already obligates them to make a zimun. The second approach is, even if they merely ate kol echad eichel mekikra, they each ate from their own loaf of bread, they're nevertheless considered to be combined and joined together, and this obligates them in zimun. And finally, we have another version in the Gemara. Even if they all originated in separate groups, so 3 people departed from the groups and they came here together, we have a group of 3 that haven't even eaten yet together. Nevertheless, they are chayiv to make Brachos Hamazon with a zimun. Continues the Gemara. A gdeis chaburis, 2 groups that ate together, so if they see each other, they can combine and join as one zimun. Tana im yesh shamash b'neim, if there's a servant that is serving both groups, in that case, even if they don't see each other, for instance, if there's a curtain between them, in that case, shamash mitzarfan, the shamash, the waiter, he joins them, he serves as a connector, and they can join together as one group, being mezamen together. Continues the Gemara, prior to it being diluted with water, the proper bracha is not Boi Priagafen, but rather Boi Priates. Ella Boi Priates. You can use this very sharp wine. You could use it for Natil Sedayim, since it's not considered like wine, it's merely considered like Mei Peris. Fruit juice, like, has a status of fruit water, like water. Therefore, we can use it for Natil Sedayim. Once we dilute it with water, now it has a status of a quality beverage, has the status of wine. Now it has the status of wine. It's not really considered to be Mei Peris, the water of fruit. It has an elevated status, a higher quality beverage called wine. It is not kosher for Netilas Yadayim. The Rebbe Lezer, who differentiates between whether it was diluted with water or not. Either way, whether it's in its pure form or diluted, the proper bracha is hagafen. It cannot be used for Netilas Yadayim. Why? Because one may not use food or drinks in a way that spoils it. We can't just wash our hands with this beverage and be mafsid and ruin the food. Continues the Gemara. Keman Azla Hadam Ashmol. We're trying to explain Rabbi Lezer's opinion. Why does he allow one to wash his hands with Netilas Yadayim, even though he's ruining the beverage? Who is he following? Meaning, what is the basis, the rationale of Rabbi Lezer? Keman Azla Hadam Ashmol. Whose opinion does Shmuel, the Shmuel with his ruling, who does Shmuel's ruling follow? What is it based on? One can go ahead and use food, even bread, for any type of use, even other than eating or drinking. Command Rabbi Lezer. He is following Rabbi Lezer's shita that allows one to wash his hands with wine. So apparently that is the basis, that is the reason for Rabbi Lezer's allowance. And indeed Shmuel bases his halacha on Rabbi Lezer. Chacham will agree to Rabbi Lezer because of bracha regarding the case of Brachos Hamazon. One is not meant to make the bracha on it prior to diluting it. My time, why? Why is that more significant? Why is Kosher Bracha more important? Regarding Kosher Bracha, who meant to endeavor to do a mitzvah mufchar, a more elevated mitzvah, a more preferable mitzvah, and therefore don't use it unless it was diluted with water, and now it can be truly enjoyed as a quality beverage. Says the Rabbanan, when the Rabbanan say that even wine in its pure form is considered to be wine, and the proper bracha is agafen, l'may chazi. What is it fit for? What is it used for in its pure form? Why does it have this elevated status of wine, and requires this unique bracha of Pri Agafen, which is only applied to wine on account of its unique status, on account that it was changed for the better. It became a higher quality beverage. What can it be used for? Or Rav Zera Chazal Karaiti is meant, it can be used for this concoction, or says it's anumlis, valuntis, that is used for refuah purposes. So they put it as an ingredient, they use pure wine in its pure form. So we see that wine, even in its pure form, is suitable and can be drunk. Therefore, hagafen can be applied to even wine in its pure form. Continues the Gemara, Dal Dvar never pass. 4 things was said regarding food. Number 1, Eimanichan basachal pas. One is not meant to place raw meat on bread because it can ruin it. One is not meant to pass a full glass, a full cup over the bread, since it might spill and ruin it. We're not meant to throw bread. We're not meant to support a plate with bread. So, according to this brisa, food is meant to be used strictly for eating purposes, and not for other purposes. They ate bread together. They were served pomegranates and dates. Mazutcha took the piece of meat, the distant piece of meat, and he threw it onto Rav Ashi's plate. So it didn't get ruined, it didn't get spoiled, but he threw it. And Rav Ashi responded and said, do you not hold the Hadasani as we learned? We're not meant to throw food. So he said, no, that's unique to bread. Ahiba pastanya. That's only unique to bread. Generally, we're allowed to throw food. But bread, that is held in a higher regard, that is a staple of our meals, of our sustenance, and one is meant to relate to bread with more respect and not to throw it around. V'atanya, so he challenged and he said, doesn't it say in the Brachos, Shem Shein Zorken Zapas, just as we don't throw bread, Kachin Zorken Za'oichlin. So too regarding other foods. Amalei, so he responded, V'atanya, haven't we learned just the opposite? Aval B'Shein Zorken Zapas, Aval Zorken Za'oichlin. Bread we don't throw, but food we do. Elulei Kasha, it's not difficult. We must reconcile the Brachos as follows. It depends if the food is getting ruined and spoiled when it's thrown. If it's a type of food that is going to get spoiled, for instance, ripe fruit, so in that case, certainly, just as we're not meant to throw bread, we're not meant to throw food and ruin it. But the Brachos that says that one is allowed to throw food, just not bread, but food is allowed to, that is in the case of loy mamis, when it doesn't get ruined, doesn't get spoiled. So in summary, regarding using food or drink for a use other than its primarily intended use, which is eating and drinking, we have 3 shittas. The Brisa prohibits it. The Brisa says, one may not even support his plate with a piece of bread. Apparently the Brisa holds that food and drink is meant to be used exclusively for its intended purpose of eating and drinking and nothing else. According to Shmuel, indeed one may use these items for other purposes. Shmuel says, Oisa Adam called Shrachav Pas, as long as he doesn't ruin it, as long as he's not mam'is the food, doesn't spoil it by using it in a different manner, as long as he doesn't render it inedible, doesn't interfere with the food properties, he goes ahead and eats it afterwards. So that's okay. According to Rabbi Lezer, You're allowed to use it even if it ruins it. Even if it becomes mos, like the example we have of washing one's hands with wine. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that is permissible. Why? Because Rabbi Yehuda holds, apparently Hashem gave us these items like anything else. One can use it, one can choose to do with it anything he needs. Just like any other item, food and drink is no different than anything else. And finally, everybody agrees that bread has a higher status. We must regard it with a higher degree of respect. We're not meant to even throw it. Ein zerkin esapas. Continues the Gemara. Tanarabon. Mamshichin yain b'tzinoiros v'chasam lekala. They used to make the water, the wine flow through the tubes, the pipes. In front of the chasam lekala, this is a siman toiv, a siman, a sign of tranquility, of bracha. And this is to be done. This is permissible. Rashi explains that they used to go and receive the wine into kalim, so it didn't get lost, it wasn't ruined, and there was no bizayin. And you throw in front of them toasted grains and walnuts, in the summertime, not in the wintertime, because then they'll land in the mud and get ruined. But not baked items. Any time in the year, since when you throw these items, they get ruined. So one may not do so. Go ahead and ruin the items of food. Apparently this brisa is in accordance with the sheet that holds you can use food for other uses as long as it doesn't get ruined. Continues the Gemara. If one inadvertently puts food into his mouth, is that a bracha? What do you do now? So he shifts it to one side of his mouth and makes the bracha while it's in his mouth. Says the Gemara, we have three brises. Tanya Chada, one brisa says, Boilan, you're meant to swallow it. V'tanya Idach Polton, you're meant to spit it out. V'tanya Idach, we have a third brisa, which is Mesalkan, shift it to the side. Like Kasha, it's not a contradiction. Hada Tanya Boilan, the first brisa which says swallow it. And as the Rush says, swallow it and then make the bracha. Although ordinarily the bracha comes before drinking. In this case, we have no choice. So since he became aware of the bracha obligation while it was in his mouth, before he swallowed, this is also considered to be as though he made the bracha before swallowing. So swallow and then make the bracha. B'mashkin, we're speaking about liquids. Haditani boiling b'mashkin, liquids. Haditani polton, spit it out and then make the bracha. B'midi deloy mimis, speaking about an item, a food item, which doesn't get ruined by merely putting it into your mouth. Therefore you can spit it out, make the bracha, and then you won't hesitate to eat it again. So that is the preferred manner. Go ahead and shift it to the side of your mouth, make the bracha while it's still in there. So speaking about an item, a food item that gets ruined by putting it into your mouth, meaning once he's going to take it out, spit it out, he's not going to want to eat it again. Therefore, keep it in your mouth, shift it to the side, and make the bracha. Says the Gemara, let's try to understand this. An item that won't get ruined. It doesn't get ruined by putting it into one's mouth. Why is he required to go spit it out and make the bracha? Nami, there too, simply shift it to the side of the mouth and make the bracha while it's in your mouth. Says the Gemara, no. One is not meant to make a bracha with something in his mouth. He explained as follows: my mouth should be filled with your praise. One is meant to have a clear mouth so that he could praise Hashem with fullness and clarity. Therefore, preferably one should spit out the food item, make the bracha with a full mouth and with clarity, and then eat the item again. So in conclusion, regarding one who inadvertently puts a food item in his mouth prior to making a bracha, the one brisa says, boilan, swallow it. It's speaking about mashkin, liquids. Poilton, spit it out. That's speaking about an item, a food item that doesn't get ruined. And mesalkan, shift it to the side. That's a food item that does get ruined. Therefore, keep it in your mouth. Make the bracha while it's in your mouth, rather than spitting it out and rendering it unfit for eating again. But an item that won't get ruined, better take it out and bless Hashem with a full mouth and with clarity. Yimale pi silasecha.